Hello and welcome to Bumper Turtles. Today you're going to create a model that will basically have turtles running back and forth into objects, and you can choose whether or not you want to have a trail of where they've been and where they're going. Okay, so before we actually start this, the first thing you need to know before you do this model is it's very, very, very important that you have already watched the conditional logic, NetLogo if statements, and Bumper Turtles video. It's a long one, but you want to watch that and do the notes before you try to do this model, or none of it is going to make sense, and it's going to be very confusing and a very long process for you. Okay, so you finished your notes with your conditional logic, NetLogo if statements, and Bumper Turtles video, and now you have NetLogo downloaded. The first thing that you're going to do, of course, is comment with your name, date, and the title of the model, which today is Bumper Turtles. Our first procedure is going to be to set up random, and just like every other model, you're going to do a clear all right after that in the setup procedure. And then we're going to reset ticks, like in the owl model, and this will clear our tick counter so we can start counting over again. At this point, like in the pixel art model, if you got to do that one, we're going to ask Patches. So just like we ask turtles to do things, we can ask Patches to do things. And in this case, we're going to do a very long if, then, or else statement, which will make our patches black, blue, and red, and it'll just choose randomly which are which. I'll come back to that in just a second, and you can copy that down. We have to be very careful with those. Then you're going to show the count of the patches. So when you put show count of whatever you put after that, it'll show your count, and you can create what's called a monitor. We'll talk about that later. And then we're going to put show count patches with each specific patch color. P color is how we indicate patch color. Then we're going to create 45 turtles and create a procedure for them. Then we'll set their heading to a random, and we'll set their color and put the pen down. Okay, so let's start back up here. We ask our patches, and you're going to put open bracket and then a close bracket, and all of this stuff is going to go in between. Okay, we're going to define a variable, which will be r. So we're saying here, let r equal random 100, which means it's going to be anywhere between 0 and 99, and it'll just randomly pick one of those. And then we're doing an if-else statement. So our if-else statement is, if r is less than 10, with spaces in between those, then, and whatever goes in our first set of brackets is what it will do if r is less than 10. So if it is less than 10, we'll set the P color black. Again, that's patch color. We close bracket for our if. Then we do a then. Okay, so whatever's inside these next two brackets is our then, or else. That means, that it's our else statement. So that means if r is less than 10, it'll set the P color black. Otherwise, it'll do whatever's in the next set of brackets. Now this is going to get confusing because we're going to do some nested if-else statements. So inside our else statement, we're putting another if-else statement, and you don't really have to understand that right now. Just the basics that you should understand are your if-else statement. Your first thing is what's going to be if, and that goes inside its own brackets, and then the second thing will be else. So this is if it is true, and then the second set of brackets is if it's not true. Okay, so back to our else for our first if-else. We're going to do another if-else. So at this point, you might want to check your brackets. You should have an open bracket, a closed bracket, and then way down here, a closed bracket for the whole thing. Okay. Open bracket, if-else, r is less than 20. Then in brackets, set P color red. If it's not less than 20, then it's going to do another if-else statement. So this thing is what it's going to do instead. And this very last if-else statement should help everything else make sense. So inside our else statement with these two brackets, we're doing one last if else. Okay? If else r is less than 30. If it's true, in our first set of brackets we put what we want it to do. So we want it to set the p color blue if the variable r is less than 30. Or else, if it's greater than 30 or equal to 30, we want it to set its p color green. And then we close bracket, and we close bracket, and we close bracket. So double check your brackets right now. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4 closed brackets at the very end of this guy. And you can click on each bracket and see if it has a pair. Okay, so like if I click on that one, I see its pair, and on that one, and on that one. It's very easy to forget brackets in this process. So click each open bracket and make sure it has a closed bracket. If it doesn't, then you can figure out where it goes. Okay, go ahead and add show count patches. Show count patches with, and in brackets put p color space equal space red. Close brackets. Do the same thing with p color equals blue, and the same thing with p color equals black. At this point, we're about halfway through our setup random. So we're going to take a little break. It's time for some cuteness. And here's our cute animal of the day.